Hello and welcome to the Money Queen podcast. I am Alex Nicolaitis, the Money Queen. I am here to break the stigma that we don't talk about money here. I will deliver the loving bitch slaps that you need in your business to elevate you as a leader and support you through to that next level of welcoming in the wealthiest version of yourself. Backed by 14 years in the accounting and bookkeeping industry, I utilize the support of the masculine systems, structure, and ATO compliance combined with the feminine energetics of mentoring and allowing ourselves to be open to receiving and holding space for queens like yourself who are committed to forming a healthy relationship with money. So hit that subscribe button, leave me a rating, and I cannot wait to have you by my side as we raise the feminine collective and create true generational wealth and change. I am introducing one of my beautiful friends that I met whilst traveling in Egypt last year, of all places. The people that you meet, right? We had a mutual connection, actually. And then when I realized what was happening, I was like, oh, you know Jess? You used to work with Jess? I'm like, what a small bloody world. And then we just got on like a house on fire the entire trip. And I was like, she needs to be on this podcast because A, she's an amazing human, and B, from what hair flick, hi, hello. And what I learned about you, the way that you were brought up in relationship to travel and the way that I was brought up in relationship to travel are literally polar opposites. And I found it so fascinating of like, what does the other side look like essentially? Because I grew up going, my family literally never went on a holiday together ever. And you had the total opposite. So I would love to dive into that today in conversation with you. Let's start off with a bit of an introduction. What I know about you is you've been in the travel space for
8 years now.
8 years, yeah. So a little bit of a veteran there. Know a thing or two about travel. You have been traveling since you were like a very young child.
3.
Since you were 3 years old. Wow, that's so crazy for me to even be like 3 years old. What does that even look like? But we will get into that.
Shoulders a lot. Yeah, I didn't walk much. Yeah, everyone carried me everywhere. Yeah.
Allowing to be supported by other people around you. We love that.
Exactly. Important lesson. Yeah.
Yeah. And you also have a business on the side called Transformed by Tara. So you have a lot of facets to your life. So let's dive in. What have I missed in your little bit of a spiel there? Tell us about you.
Yeah, no, you pretty much covered it.
Yep.
So yeah, I've been traveling since I was a kid. My dad is like Malay and Sri Lankan background. So when we were little, and my mum's a traveler from way back. So she always wanted us to get out and see the world, and she thought we'd be able to see and explore and learn so much more, not in the classroom. And so from when I was a kid, we would do like a trip a year sort of thing. So we did a lot of Asia and like, yeah, all that sort of region when I was little, just in school holidays and things. And then when I finished year 12, my mum and my 2 sisters and I decided to go traveling, and we'd pick somewhere in the world for about 4 weeks and just go and do it in depth. And we never did it lavishly. Like we'd always, be like we stayed in a lot of hostels or Airbnb and that type of thing. And we'd want to live like locals. Like we did, one of our trips was like we did Hawaii for 4 weeks, and we like shopped where the locals shopped and stayed in holiday homes and that type of thing. We didn't eat out that much, but it was just getting a feel of the local culture. And I mean, what a place to do it. So like every year we made a pact, we would travel over Christmas every year. And then I did a degree. So I do have a degree. It's in arts management. And I worked, and that's from WAPA, the Academy of Performing Arts.
Oh, yeah.
And then I worked in like film and television in a casting agency for a few years. And then travel was pulling me, and I was like, do I quit my job and go traveling, or do I find a job that allows me to travel? And that's how I landed at Student Flights and started working there 2016, and within 2 months I was just such a nerd. As soon as I got into travel, I just loved it so much. I was, I had a pile of travel books on my floor. I was like, I just want to learn everything about the world that I can to make me better at my job, and just because I had so much interest in it. And then I, just flourished at student flights. It was great. I had a free trip in my second month, which is unheard of. They don't usually allow that, but they could see that I was a nerd and I wasn't going anywhere. So it was good. And it, makes you better at your job when you're being rewarded, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and so I was a stayer, stuck around, and then I was managing an office when COVID hit, and that was a pretty dark and depressing time to be working in travel. But I got saved by Flight Centre Travel Group because we were a part of that. But unfortunately, the rest of my team lost their jobs, which was pretty sad. And then I stayed at Flight Centre for a while, and then just wasn't for me. I'm more of a niche agent when I work, and I ended up at Travel Associates. So absolutely love it. It's great. It is the dream. Yeah. And then makeup came along on the side of that. So yeah, COVID times, I needed something bright in the dark days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did a course in makeup, and that's how Transformed by Tara developed. Yeah.
Excellent. I love that. As I said earlier, just the concept of traveling since the age of 3 just boggles my mind, because like, to give context to like how I grew up for anyone listening, is never went on a family holiday, and my parents' ethos was like, we don't have money for travel right now, we will once we retire. And so it's like there's always there always was this, like, it's not now, it's in the future. It's not now, it's in the future. Like, you can't have the lollipop now, you have it in the future. And like, so I always grew up thinking like, I'm missing out on something. Like, what, like, other people and families were going on holidays, and I was just like seeing the same thing and living in suburbia and being like, I want that. I want to expand my horizons. I want to be immersed in other cultures, but I was just like living in this little bubble essentially. So, as I grew up and earned some money for myself and was able to start traveling, I'm like, wow, like, I love everything that is about travel, of getting yourself outside of your comfort zone. Like, even in just going to the airport and going, what gate do I go to? Like, I remember when I first started traveling, there was so much anxiety around that. And like, have I printed out all my tickets? Like, have I got all the information? Have I got enough money? Have I transferred enough into like US dollars or whatever? I was such an anxious traveler. But then as like, I did it again and again and again, as with anything, I got better at it and I got more comfortable with it. And I'm like, I know I'm going to have uncomfortable moments as part of every trip, but like, I know that I can move through challenging things, and there's going to be something challenging every single day. And it's how I respond to that determines the outcome, and how I actually sit with that and hold that experience moving forward. Yeah, just the whole culture piece of immersing yourself in that and living like locals. Talk to me about your favorite culture that you've been immersed in.
Oh, I have a few. I mean, in terms of like culture and Egypt was pretty amazing. Like, we had some
goes without saying, yes.
Wow, incredible local experiences that no other traveler gets. Like, we got to go to an Egyptian wedding. Like, who else gets to do that? Insane.
And
amazing.
Okay, let's stop for a moment there. That wedding is like the epitome of why I love travel, because that wedding was like our travel guide. He just ran into someone whilst we were on tour or something like that, and the friend was like, oh, this person in my family is getting married today. And because they're such community based over there, they were like, oh, we've got a small group. We only had 6 or 8 people in our group.
There was 5
under 10.
Yeah.
5, there we go.
Yeah.
And the person was like, oh, bring them along, essentially. And then by the end of the night, we were at this wedding, and it ended up going till like midnight or 1 a.m. And that was literally just the start of the wedding. And I remember both of us like being around that little community of all the children there, just fascinated by us and practicing their English on us. And it's like, you literally don't get this if you stay in your comfort zone. You don't get this if you stay in Australia. You don't get this if you're, fearful of flying like my mother is. And it's like, there's such a world out there that so many people are too scared to step into.
Yeah,
or hold the belief that that's not for me. It's in my future, but not for right now. Like, and I think that, the way that your mother was able to go like, what income do I have right now, and how can I actually afford to take my 3 girls away every Christmas and to have that experience, like, and also to allow you to connect with, we want to be really immersed in the culture. And that just so happens to be a really affordable way of experiencing this and gifting you three girls with invaluable life lessons. What do you reckon your biggest lesson has been from traveling at such a young age?
Well, yeah, I think we saw the value of it very early on. Like, yeah, you take so much more away from travels than you do at school, really. And so, like, we would always live very affordably. Like at home, I struggle to go into a shop and buy something that's full price. I just can't do it because I know the cycle. I know it's going to be reduced in a couple of weeks' time. And I find it really, it's just the way I was raised. And like, we would go to the shopping, like the supermarket, and I know it instantly where the sales sections are, where the reduced sections are for meat and vegetables and all sorts of things. And so that's kind of how we were raised. We were raised that, you know, scrimp and save when you're at home so that you can go and see the world, because the world's out there. It's not at home in your supermarket and something you eat. It's like, it doesn't matter how much you pay for it. The meat's all the same. You can whack it in the freezer, you know, use it again. But yeah, I think the biggest lesson, I think, has been that, like, immersing yourself in that culture and traveling the way living the way the locals do, you're going to experience so much more of that culture than if you're just staying in the tourist district in the like tourist hotels and, you know, eating at Western restaurants and that type of thing. Like, you got to get out and see the locals and live like the locals, and you have such a different travel experience. And also just doing today don't put off doing something for the future, because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. I think COVID showed us that more than ever. And I think my travel habits have changed post-COVID in that I'm now like, you know, I want to see and do as much as I can now, because who knows when it's going to stop again. Like, you just never know what the future holds. And I think I'm seeing that in travel patterns across the board. Everyone wants to do those bucket list ticks. Like, I had a few things in my life that I was like, oh, I really want to do that one day, and I'm doing them because I'm like, I just don't know when I'm going to do them again. So it's very exciting. I've got a big bucket list tick coming up, which I'm really keen for.
Yes, I know exactly what that is, and I'm so keen for you to experience it, because I remember you were sharing it with me when we were in Egypt, and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to get tickets. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get time off work. I don't know how this is going to happen, but like, I'm so keen to make it happen. And I think that's, you know, how I see as an observer of your life, of what I know, that's how you've been raised to go, I don't know how I'm going to be able to make this thing happen that I desire, but like, I know that I can be resourceful enough, because that's essentially what your mother was teaching you, how to be resourceful to get the outcome that you want. And that cannot be learnt by being sheltered in like a home in, you know, in Australia, like without having any travel experience. Like, I didn't learn how to be resourceful, like in the world as such. Like, I learned that through business and through shutting out my entire life and just going, you know, headstrong into earning money, because I was like, we don't have any and I need to create it so that I can afford to travel. Like, I was still living out my parents' life, but you know, that's how I became resourceful when I was in business. You learned to be resourceful through travel.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, just saving for the chance you'll need it. Like, yeah, putting money away for travel rather than booking the trip and then going, what am I going to do? Like, yeah, it's really, we always plan based on our holidays and then we work towards that. Yeah.
So beautiful. Yeah. It's like reverse engineer the process. And I think too, it's also shifting your money habits, like what you were saying around the shopping center example, to go, I know that I want to go to, I don't know, Thailand essentially in end of the year for a month. And it's like, okay, what's that going to cost? Say that's going to be a $5,000 trip. Then the next time that you go to the shopping center, for instance, it's like, do I buy the lollies? Do I buy the expensive cut meat? Do I buy, you know, the cheeses? Or do I actually just like want them and I've got the money in my bank account? So like, you know, why the hell not? But when you've got this intentionality behind it to go, I've got this $5,000 trip in Thailand and I'm so keen to go scuba diving and to go on a few tours and to just relax on the beach and do absolutely nothing and not have a stress and the worry about, do I have enough money in my bank account to say yes to opportunities when they arise? Like, to have that safety and the flexibility when I do travel, like that's a bigger purpose and a bigger intention than like, you know, I'm a vegetarian, so I don't know what the expensive meat cuts are, but like, I don't know, a T-bone as opposed to like, I don't know, a lamb chop. I've got no idea, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
it's the habit and the intentionality behind what's this short-term gain that I'm getting right now out of the satisfaction, in inverted commas, of buying some expensive cut of meat that no one actually fucking knows about, versus the I'm going to invest this money in my growth and development and expanding my awareness and to living out a more wholesome life.
Yeah,
Like,
very much so. Yeah. Like we shop, like I still, it's been ingrained in me forever, is like shopping, like get junk mail. Everyone who has those no junk mail signs, like junk mail's the best, because, you know, there's a cycle of when things are reduced, like things like your washing powder and toilet paper and all of that stuff. Like it's always reduced somewhere. You just got to find where. And so, yeah, we always got the junk mail. And like shopping at, you know, Aldi, and we have a place called Spud Shed over here, but I don't think you guys have that.
no,
Like,
I think we had that conversation. I'm like, what now?
yes, Spud Shed. Yep, it's iconic. So yeah, shopping at those places rather than the big supermarkets, and even like your greengrocer and that type of thing, often they'll be a lot more affordable than Woolworths and Coles and that type of thing. So like, yeah, I think those habits have definitely been ingrained in me, and it was all for a bigger cause. It was all, we'd rather save here and spend elsewhere, because those experiences that you can buy elsewhere are so much bigger and better than the experiences you can have at home. So yeah, it was definitely all leading towards that. Yeah.
And I think I just, whilst you were speaking, I was reflecting on what bigger gifts that traveling has given you in your world. And I remember when we were in Egypt, we were in one of those bizarre type places, and just I saw you speaking to some random person along the way, and just I remember thinking to myself, she feels so at ease right now in a place that she's never been, around people that she's never seen. They can't speak the same language, they only know very few words, but you're able to, you know, meet them at their human and actually have a beautiful conversation and interaction with them. And I'm like, that is actually really beautiful. Like, that's like a connected human, essentially. Like, and we are humans. We strive for connection, and that's what I was seeing in those interactions. And again, like when you see travel as a cost as opposed to an investment in yourself and your growth and your development, and appreciate what other, I guess, intrinsic and soft, which are not even soft skills, that it can provide you and your world, and perhaps your children, if you have children listening and you haven't, you know, invested in holidays, it's actually really massive. Because I saw this interaction and many other interactions whilst we were together, and I was like, God, like the people skills that you have are incredible.
Aww.
Because you were ingrained in that, and going, just because they're not the same as you, it doesn't mean that they're different from you. Like, there's just a different layer there, and there's a few different, you know, barriers there, but being language or culture, or you know, they may be scared of you because of how they're perceiving you as a white blonde person. Can't see what color eyes you are, but like
they're blue.
There we go. But it's like some people actually remember people coming up to us we're in some museum and taking photos of us, because they were like, who's this celebrity? Like, there's this blonde-haired, like, Caucasian girl with blue eyes, and we want a photo with her. Like,
I think it's so good being curious when you're overseas. And like, I'm always curious about people, and it's so lovely being able to talk to locals and getting to know locals along the way, because, every time I land somewhere, especially somewhere like Egypt, where there's these massive pyramids and so much history, and I think I always turn to you and everyone else and I say, like, do they realize that they've grown up next to these pyramids, and like in this landscape that's been here for so long, so much history, so much has happened over time? Like, do they realize what they're living next to? And you know, like, I mean, people probably think that about us. Like, do they realize they're living next to these beautiful beaches and whatnot? And yeah, I love to get curious. I love to chat with the locals and find out about them and their living arrangements. And like, we were so lucky, we had like a guide for 5 of us. Like, we lived like locals. Like, we caught the minibus. Remember that minibus? Oh, yeah.
God, I so remember the mini. It was nuts.
we hopped on this minibus in the middle of one of these cities in Egypt, and it was just locals. It was like, what, 10 cents per person for the
Yeah.
ride.
Yeah.
And they had never seen a foreigner get on this minibus ever. And yet here are us five, like pretty much all Aussie women, like
Yeah.
hopping on this little minibus because of our guide. And he was so encouraging of, let's do what the locals do. Let's live like the locals. And that's kind of how I strive to travel everywhere. And I just love meeting people and finding out about their history, and, you know, those areas where like war is so recent, like the Balkans, and like hearing everyone has a story. Everybody you meet overseas has a story, and they've all lived through something. I think we live a very sheltered life a lot of the time in Australia, and like it's not until you meet those people that you become more grateful for what you have at home and what you've been raised with. And all of a sudden, you know, buying the expensive cuts of meat and things, it seems so unnecessary once you experience that overseas. So, yeah, it's
Completely agree. And I think like it's interesting the example that you gave of like being in Egypt in the pyramids. Like my dad was born in Egypt and he lived there for 8 years, came to Australia when he was 8.
Wow.
And, you know, he literally never spoke about his time in Egypt at all. And he passed when I was 18. And it was like all that history is gone. Like all that, you know, what was it like to be over there and to have the pyramids like behind you? Like, you know, it was incredible life experience, I assume, but I don't know, because he, like you were saying, was just not appreciating what was actually around him. And whereas both of us, when we were over there, were like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I cannot believe that we are here and experiencing this. And yeah, so an appreciation for what is around you right now is definitely what I took out of that, for sure.
Yeah, very much so.
That's a bit of our travel history. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk to me about your life right now. And business is blowing up and it's hectic as anything.
It is. Yeah.
Talk to me about, so Transform by Tara is your makeup business, a makeup artist business. So any of my Perth friends listening, I do have quite a few Perth friends and followers. So if you need your makeup done, this is your gal. Go and talk to her. Follow her on Instagram. What is your handle on Instagram? Tell me.
At Transform by Tara.
Okay, just one word. Excellent.
Yeah, Transform by Tara. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So it's very exciting. It's kind of, I do bring it down a little bit to you. You gave me a bit of a push when we were on our trip.
I'm listening. Hi, hello.
Yeah. I think we were having a chat one day about, you know, what we love to do and how we form that into something. And Transform by Tara started a few years ago. So it was during COVID. I did a 6-month course because it's something I'd never followed, but I'd always loved. And I did my sister's makeup for her wedding and kind of just was like, oh, I just enjoyed that so much. And I think it was my mum that day was like, you should do this. Like, you should follow this if you love it. And I was like, okay. And so I went and did a 6-month course, absolutely loved it, and started it off. I had a few bookings to get started sort of thing. And then it was a very slow burn. Like I would have a client every couple of weeks, or someone would tell their friend and they'd book in with me. But as it's always for special events, people don't book you frequently. Like it's usually when they have a special event, they'll book you in for something. And then at the start of last year, I did a course in hair because I kept getting asked, do I do hair as well? And I thought, you know what, could be a good investment. So it was pricey, but I invested in myself and I went and did a 1-day course with a really top bridal hair expert here in Perth. And that was an amazing grounding. From there, I bought a really creepy mannequin head that sits in a room. It's terrifying. I've had nightmares. She chases me around the house in my nightmares. It's real scary.
Do you have a name?
Yeah, Luna. Yeah.
Oh my God, absolutely, it's named.
Yes. She's really scary, but she's been amazing because I would just get home from work or something and go and just practice a hairstyle. And like I would just started doing that, and I love it. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It's creative. And it helped me grow those skills. And that course was just amazing. And so then I kind of it was still kind of a booking here and there. I'd had a couple of brides in my time, but not many, because it takes a lot of trust for someone to book you for their wedding. when you haven't done many weddings before. Like a lot of the clients I was getting and even still get are people that don't often wear makeup, and they don't want the big heavy glam look. They just want to look like them but better. So that's my kind of vibe niche. And so I'd kind of had a few bookings here and there, and then we were in Egypt, and we were chatting about our business plans and whatnot. And you said, if you love it, why aren't you doing it more? Why aren't you making time for it? And I got back to Perth, and I sat with that for a while, and then I adjusted my days around at my workplaces so that I'd have workplaces. So I still do the job in casting. So I still work at my job in casting on one day a week, and then I do travel the other days. But I jiggled my days so that I'd have every second Friday available, and of course every weekend available. And so I just made time for it. And then out of the blue, I get a call from another artist in Perth saying, "I love your work. Can I send you some bookings?" And I said, okay. And I think it was that person giving me that confidence that changed everything. All of a sudden, I channeled a lot more energy into my social media, which I had been scared to do. It's a scary thing to put yourself out there and to say, follow me, this is my business, this is what I'm doing. And I was like, I can't be scared anymore. It's not going to happen if I don't treat it like my business. And so that gave me so much confidence, just someone else giving me that, "I love your work, let's do this." And then all of a sudden it kind of went from there. People discovered I could do hair and makeup, and a couple of bridal teams will send me work here and there, and they'll ask me to do a couple of heads of hair on a bridal party or something. And all of a sudden I'm booked every weekend. And I think before I had a lot of imposter syndrome, a lot of that, I'm not good enough, I don't have enough experience, no one's gonna book me. And then like the Facebook communities have been amazing. Like there's a weddings one here in Perth, and like local community groups. Often someone will ask, recommendations for a makeup or hair artist and things. And I do have a few people who are big advocates for me and will put my name in there. Or I sometimes I comment my pages in there if I'm feeling like it. And then, it's spiraled into a proper business. And all of a sudden, I'm booked out every weekend, which is amazing. It's just changed by believing myself and treating my business like a business rather than just something that's just there on the side. So,
and that's a huge shift, and quite common in when I speak to other women in business. They like, when I made that intentional shift to go, this is just a side hustle, to, and even the words that I just use, this is just a side hustle. Actually, no, it's a business. It's not my main priority. That's not my main priority. It's not my main source of income, but it is a business. Two, this is actually like where I want to focus my time and energy. And as you said, I'm now making the choice to make time for it, because like even the word busy, like I was speaking to my partner about this the other day, and he's like, "Oh, you got a busy schedule this week." I'm like, "No, I've got a full schedule. My schedule is full as I desire it to be. And right now it's actually overflowing. So obviously that's what I want right now." But if I were to allow the word busy in my world, I'm like, busy is just so bullshit, because you make time for what's important to you. If you have a young family, your priority is going to be more towards them and less towards work. If you have a new business, it's going to be more towards the business and less towards like your 9-to-5 job, like if that's the way you want your business to grow. So it's like, we always make time for what's important to us. And to hear that was a reflection after our conversations in Egypt. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with me. But it also goes to show the power of micro conversations that I'd forgotten all about, because to me, I was just having a conversation, but to you, it's actually shifted a large part of your world. Like you took action from that and went, "Oh, hang on a minute, let's reflect. What do I actually want to do here?" Shifted up your work schedule so that you could make time, then rebirthed your business essentially. And now you've had someone come in and go, "Oh, hey Tara, love your vibe. Like, let's work together." And it's flourishing from there. So all of that cascading events would have even perhaps not even taken place, or would have happened in sometime in the future. But if, I didn't say yes to travel, if you didn't say yes to travel, if we didn't meet in Egypt, like none of that would have happened. Like,
I know. Isn't that crazy? It's the catalyst. Love it.
It really is. Mm.
But yeah, it's been amazing, like the shift in it. It's just crazy. All of a sudden, yeah, I make time for it, and I think it's a perfect balance because like my travel work, it doesn't usually happen on weekends. Like my busiest days are at the start of the week, and then makeup is usually at the end of the week. So everything is just beautifully balanced. It's lovely. And it does get tricky in points where I have to make a decision sometimes and say like, maybe I forego that hair booking or something, and because it's been a big week or something like that. And so it's definitely a balance, but yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes. I love being able to do everything I love. Like I've planned my life out to do everything I love, which is just so nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm loving hair and makeup. Like I still am shocked that I get paid to do something I love. Like it shocks me every time. Like I don't tell anyone, but I would do it for free, but I won't.
But that is such a testament to when you find something that you love, like you never work a day in your life. It's been said time and time again, but it is so true. Like, and I completely resonate with that because I'm like, I love talking to women in business. I love numbers. I love like giving people education that they don't have around their finances and like allowing them to feel safe with money. You love travel. You are so immersed in that. You love doing hair and makeup and making people like elevate their world and not just like put a whole cake of face on, makeup on their face, but just like elevate what they desire and to like give them that confidence boost for their beautiful days. And it's like, yeah, the most fulfilling way that we can live life is what would I be able to do right now and what would I be willing to do, like would I be able to do that for free and still actually love what I'm doing? If the answer to that is yes, you've struck
So
gold.
much.
So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the
Beautiful,
dream.
beautiful, beautiful. I love that. I've got a question for you. Do you want your 2024 to look exactly the same as this current year? Or are you ready for some sassy wake-up calls around your money world and a fire to be lit under your arse? Introducing the Money Queen Coaching Package, a 6-week journey which has already been a key pivotal experience for queens just like you to shift their relationship with money. Get a personalized sacred money archetype reading, which is pretty much like human design, but for your money world, filled with aha moments and 2 tailored 90-minute sessions to reset your money mindset and unleash your magnetic power. Click the link in the show notes to claim your throne, Queen. You started this business a couple of years ago during COVID, and now you've done a bit of a revamp. What's the biggest lesson, and this may be a bit of a sidestep one, what's the biggest lesson that you think that you are yet to learn?
Ooh. Oh gosh, that's tricky. I feel like I have a lot to learn from other artists. I think that's where that's my next step, is to really channel in and learn from other artists. Like there's a couple that I really idolize here in Perth, and I have a lot of learning to do with like from them. And there's only so much you can do on social media and whatnot to learn from other artists. So I've kind of set the plans in place to do some one-on-ones in the low season, where, you know, like from May kind of through to like August, where there's not weddings or school balls and things. So yeah, I think my biggest lessons and learnings are going to come from other artists. That's been a big resource for me this year. A lot of bookings for my business come from other artists, because you can only spread your recognition so far on social media. But it's those other artists that have those extra bookings they can't take on, and they want to give them to someone that they trust and someone who, you know, they know will do a good job. So yeah, I think my biggest lessons are going to come from other artists. And I think
what you just said there, yeah, absolutely. What you said there that rung true for me is people, like, it's not who you know sorry, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And
Mm,
people like to refer to other people that they like, know, and trust.
mm,
And by investing in those relationships and getting some training from these people, then they increase their confidence in you. They get to know you. You're an amazing human. So obviously they're going to love you. So then when they have overflow, it's like, oh, cool. Here, like go to Tara. She's trained under me. I know that she's an amazing person and your personalities would be amazing for each other. Here, go and work with her. So that to me, and that's how I built my first business and my second business now, it's all based on relationships and
yeah.
investing in that. And that, to circle back to what we were saying about travel, in my opinion, it comes back to the travel of being immersed in cultures that is not your norm, in being able to have conversations with people without the spoken word, and being creating that safety with someone who you have that language barrier to go to walk up to them and allow them to feel safe without it, again, even speaking a word, like with body language and with tonality in like tonality, I don't know if that's the right word, but like using your facial expressions, like a smile even, you know.
Yeah.
And that is such an underrated skill in business, especially when starting out, because I find a lot of people have misguided directions, I think is probably the right way to say it, of going, I'm creating this business. I need to have a $10,000 website. I need to have all of the funnels if possible. I need to, show up on social media at like 5 times a day or whatever that looks like. And that's how I'm going to grow my business. And that strategy does work for some. But in my case, and a lot of people that I've spoken to, it's how can I be the best human? How can I actually love what I do and be genuine in that? And how can I build relationships around me that are actually a win-win situation? And if not a win-win-win situation, and
Yeah.
that's essentially how you have rebirthed your business to go, okay, who around me do I want to learn from? Do I get to learn from? Because as a business owner, you know, the biggest tool to allow your business to succeed is to always be a learner. Like to
Yeah.
always be willing to learn more and to grow and
Mm.
to learn from other people, as opposed to being an asshole essentially and being like, I'm the best in the world and I know like everything there is to know about hair and makeup. Like, no, you don't, Queen.
Yeah. You
So
can't
just
be
allow,
stagnant. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So
Allowing
true.
yourself to actually be vulnerable and go, I don't know
Mm.
everything. Like, do I know a lot? Yeah. Have I got a lot of experience? Yeah. But is there also someone else that I can learn from? Absolutely. And how can I get in their space and curate and foster that relationship to help me help them and, backwards and forwards?
So true. And like I think at the root of it, all of my things that I do are all about connecting with people. Like that's what I do on and in all of my jobs. It's about connecting with different people and people from different walks of life. And how, even if we don't have a lot in common, we can still have a good conversation while I do their makeup and that type of thing. So I think that's what it might be my social media that gets people in the first booking, but it's what's going to keep people coming back to me is connecting with them, finding what makes them tick, what they need. Like makeup and hair is basically a consultation the whole time between two people. So yeah, I think going back to travel, I think it's really helped, like all of those travels I've had and different people I've met and that type of thing, and what does that person need from me and so forth. So yeah, I also had a part-time job all the way through high school, which I think really helped. Like I worked at the movies and was constantly speaking with different people from different walks of life, and yeah, interacting with different people. I think it all comes down to life bits and pieces, and yeah, that's kind of how my business has grown. So it's
Mm.
really nice. Yeah,
Excellent.
love it.
We love that.
Mm,
Given that we're talking about travel again, let's
yeah.
circle back to this one. Top 3 travel tips
Oh,
for making the most out of your whatever budget you have. Let's say like there's a 3 grand budget for your trip. What's the best ways that you have utilized yourself to go, I'm getting the most bang for my buck? What are you doing?
yeah. All right. I think so staying local or like embracing different methods of accommodation. So whether that be like hostels, because hostels have private rooms and sometimes hostels are way nicer than the hotels. Like there's a hostel in Lisbon that I put a lot of travelers at, and where I am now, it is quite a high-end travel agency, but I have had nothing but great feedback about this hostel that's super central, beautiful building, like it's very art deco, and yet it's a hostel, but there's rooms with private bathrooms. You know, why stay in a really bougie hotel when you can stay somewhere like that and meet other travelers? And sometimes there's a kitchen as well in hostels. So if you do crave food from home or a salad or something like that, you can just go and grab the ingredients and make it in your own kitchen in your hostel. And on that same note, always travel with a set of cutlery if you can, because it helps.
Like, I'm guessing like metal cutlery, will that go through the detectors or just like...
Yeah, or even just plastic ones in in your big suitcase or something. Yeah, it definitely helps. And even like a Chinese food container, you know, like a plastic Chinese food container. Yeah. Because then if you are in a hotel and you want to go grab something, you can put it in there to make it or whatever, or like noodles or something. Yeah. And then if you're traveling home,
we love that.
Yeah, and if you're traveling home, you can put breakables in there and it pads it out a bit. Chinese food container. But anyway, back to what I was saying.
Very versatile. Yes, that's what we're here for. Things that Exactly.
I think sorting out your money before you go. So making sure you have a travel card that is not going to charge you any fees when you're overseas. It's not necessarily one that's like a travel card, but a card without any international fees, international conversion, anything like that. Making sure that you've got multiple cards in different spots in your luggage as well. So if you've got a debit and a credit with you, keep a debit and your credit in your suitcase locked in your hotel room, so that you never have all of your payment methods with you at one time, apart from when you're going from airport to hotel, sort of thing. And yeah, just making sure that you know what the currency is, what currencies are best accepted. There's places like, you know, Cambodia and things where they'll accept USD or they'll accept local currency. Work out which one's going to be better for you to use, like which one is a better comparison to your local currency and so forth. So yeah, working
how to make your money go further essentially in that.
And like little tricks of things to do with money, like to do with your money, like when you arrive in Bali, for example, you can pay your visa fee in cash, like a AUD cash, but the exchange rate they charge is brutal. Like you're much better off paying it with a card. So little things like that, working out your money situation before you go and what's going to be best. And then
I have one question on that.
Oh yeah, sure.
How, like, you know that going to Bali in that situation because you've been there. If I hadn't been to Bali, how would I find that out? Like, is there a website that you go to that's like travel hacks for X, Y, and Z country? Or
I mean, booking with a travel advisor always helps.
There we go. It does, absolutely.
Plug.
We're here for it.
But no, Smart Traveler does have a lot of information. Smart Traveler is amazing. There are, like, with Bali, there's a few different entry requirements now. So like there's a customs form and there's a local fee as well. And I do believe Smart Traveler has all the information, but a travel advisor is always helpful. It's very good.
Yes. And may I just add to your plug, you don't need to be in Perth to use her at all.
Yeah. Book anyone.
Yep.
But yeah, so I think, getting your money and finances sorted beforehand, and phone as well. That's tied together. That's not my third point, but phone, working out what you're going to do for phone when you're there. Like, I like to use either a local SIM or I'm about to get into eSIMs. I haven't tried.
I was going to ask.
Yeah. I haven't tried it yet, but it's going to be the best option for my next trip. And like sometimes you can get them discounted as well. So like Sims Direct is a great site. They currently have, I think, 15% off all eSIM. But there's like the trip I'm going on, we need to specifically have access to Vodafone towers in one spot we're going at the festival that I'm going to, because it's sponsored by Vodafone. They're the only ones with towers there. And so I think it's Holofly or Air Arlo, one or the other, that does the eSIM that I need. So that's what I'm going to do the next one. And I think it's $99 for 30 days, but that's unlimited data. Like we're hiring a car in one place we're going to, so we're going to need GPS. So rather than pay GPS for the car hire, we're going to get a good SIM and use just our phone maps. So yeah, thinking ahead about things with that. And then my third tip is, because that was tied together. My third tip would be, embracing local, eating local, shopping local, going where the locals go. Like when we were in Egypt, we were on the hunt for local establishments and to try local food. And, I had a really great food experience in Vietnam. I'm all about an amazing foodie experience. Like that's a big part of my travel as well. Love a good food experience. We were in Vietnam at one point, and I always look on TripAdvisor for where to eat. That ties into that. So always look at TripAdvisor reviews before you go somewhere for dinner. A bad experience in Bali a couple of years ago has changed that for me. I will never eat at an establishment without looking at it on TripAdvisor first. And so we found this one on TripAdvisor. It was right up in the top 10. All the reviews were in Vietnamese, so I think that should have been a sign to us. But we arrived, and the lady pointed at a table. We sat down on these little plastic stools, and then just bowls of soup just arrived in front of us. We had no idea what was in it, but it was the most delicious pho I've ever had. And we went to pay the bill, and it was like $1.50 a bowl. Like,
wow.
yeah. And like the beers, I think, were 50 cents or 20 cents or something.
Nuts.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And so little like local foodie experiences will always be more affordable than a Western experience where you are.
Yeah.
So following the locals, doing what.
And it's such a it's an interesting point to go. You're over in these countries to experience their way of living that's significantly different to yours. If you're going there and constantly seeking out the Western foods, which is similar to what you know at home, what's the purpose?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
and I think, for some people, and, I probably said this whilst we're in Egypt, I'm like, oh, I don't want to get sick. But it's like, isn't that actually part of the experience? Like going to a restaurant that looks dodgy as anything, but the reviews on TripAdvisor are like, this is amazing. Like, look past the facade of it and actually go in and try the food because the food's actually amazing, and allowing yourself to go, you know what, I may get sick because my stomach isn't used to this food, but if I do, I'll handle that. Like, it's part of traveling. It's part of exploring and being an adventurer. Like, it's part and parcel of that. And if you are not willing to push yourself outside of your comfort zone and go to a place that, hundreds of people perhaps have said how good the food is, like, that's on you for staying in your own box, in your safety zone. So, I would question your intentionality of going, do you actually just want to travel around your suburb?
Yeah.
Like, the answer to that, or the actions that you're doing, is no, but the actions that you're doing in the present moment is actually yes. So, like, for what purpose are you actually on this trip?
Exactly. And like one thing I love to do as well, like following on from that like food type thing, is there's a lot of places in the world where you can get a local to show you around, or like for example, in a lot of countries there are university student tours where they want to show tourists around to practice their English. And like there's a good one I did also in Vietnam, but a different Vietnam trip. And we had 2 uni students take us on a food tour, and they took us to a few different spots. And like you said, really dodgy facades, like a Westerner would never eat there. And yet, best food of our trip. It was the best introduction to local food, and it made us more brave when we were dining out after that, because we were like, oh, that's what we had on that tour. And like one of these dishes had like fully cooked shrimp, like little tiny shrimp cooked with their shells on. Sorry, yeah.
So fun. I can still talk about it.
But like I would never normally order that, because I'm like, I'm not gonna eat shell of prawn. And yeah, it was the most delicious thing I ate the whole trip. So getting locals to show you their world is just the most brilliant experience, and it makes you more brave with your food and more comfortable in the destination, and it's just such a great intro to what you're doing. Also, Viator is a really great little one.
Yes, I used them a lot when I was booking stuff for Greece after Egypt, and it was amazing. And they even gave me discounts as well, because I booked so much stuff, and I was like, oh, great, I've got credits on here now. This is amazing.
Oh, it's fabulous. Yeah, and like it links you with local companies. Like the companies on there, I had a couple go to Vietnam recently, and like they sent me a few that they were interested in, and I can book Viator as well for people. So I booked them on there, and like one of them was like a Jeep tour in some tiny little place in Vietnam. They came and picked them up and took them out to this like rural village and things. And it's just a great connector with local community, because all of these tours on there, they're the local companies. You're not booking with some massive big company. It's a local company that you're booking. So that's really great. And yeah, like for example, I'm going somewhere that was a bit harder to, we're going to Sardinia, and there's not a lot
Oh.
on my systems that I could book of things. So like I booked my car hire via a local company instead of one of those big Avis, Hertz, Eurocar, etc. And this local company had amazing reviews, but it's a little local company. So, and yeah, I booked it through them instead. It was a lot cheaper because you're not paying big, business fees and advertising and so forth. You're booking direct with the locals. So that's my biggest tip to save a bit of money. It's definitely the best way to do it, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like some people out there listening may be like, oh, I don't trust that. Like, I don't want, what if they're dodgy and they take my money? And it's like big businesses can do that shit as well, my friend.
Yeah,
Like
they'll do
they
that
can be,
more. Yeah.
exactly. They can be dodgy and they can take your money and not give you refunds when you ask for it. So anyone listening who is thinking, oh, I don't know about that, I'd question your belief on big businesses do it quite as often as the little ones. So,
Yeah.
and I think, in the third world type countries, the part of the benefit that I see when I go traveling is that I can fuel their economy so that they can actually, build better lives for themselves. And if I'm constantly pouring all my money into the big corporations that are worldwide, like part of the reason for me traveling is lost on that. So again, like actually think about not just the money that's leaving your hands, but where is that going and who is that able to impact, I think is, a thought process that I have when I invest money, when I travel as well, which sounds like you do too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are, like, we experience some touring companies as well that do channel it back, which is good. And like they actually show a direct correlation, some of them, as to where your money is going and who it's feeding and things like that. So there are some touring companies as well that do it. And touring is a really great way of saving money as well. Because when you work out the experience versus what you would pay if you were solo, yeah, touring is definitely another good way to save a bit of money. For sure. Yeah. And like planning when you book things too, like booking things in the right timing window or during sale periods is a really great way to save a bit of money just incidentally. Yeah.
Speaking of sale periods,
Well, it's harder now.
I was about to say, are the sale periods like standard to all like the rest of the world going like Christmas and a financial, or is it like dependent on the country that you perhaps want to book to? Like talk to us a little bit about that, because I'm actually curious about that myself.
Yeah, like booking periods and things. So everything is a little bit different now because pre-COVID we had what we called Expo, and Expos were in like February and October. Sometimes there was one in July as well, and they would be your best time to book because we would have so many additional discounts on things. But we don't have Expo anymore. And so it comes down to the companies and the sale periods they offer. So Cyber Monday, like Black Friday, later in the year, like November, is a really good time to be planning and then book it when Black Friday, Cyber Monday happens, because they'll often be the best sale of the year. Click Frenzy as well is another one, which I believe is just earlier in the year, like February. I can't remember now, but yeah, usually if you look out for those big sale periods, November is usually the best of the best. But if you're planning on going to somewhere like Europe, and say you're wanting to do a tour or something like that, early birds is a good time to be booking, which is usually in about August, September, because they will honor the previous season's price with a discount. And then as soon as it hits usually like mid-October, they release their new brochures for the new season and the prices all go up. And so you might be able to get the discount off the new season price, but it's going to be higher than the previous year. So yeah.
So really getting a double discount.
Yeah, exactly. So preview, like I used to and still sell a lot of youth touring, so Kentucky and Top Deck and G Adventures and that type of thing. And like with Kentucky's, for example, their preview period is the best time to book. Like I had some clients once who booked in that preview time, They booked a tour to Greece and they ended up paying $1,500 less than everyone booking on the same tour a month later.
Wow.
So, yeah, you can definitely save a lot by booking in preview.
That's a couple of cocktails, that's for sure.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. And yeah, so booking in that time period, if you're wanting to do your summer, booking early as possible, because those flights in that peak high season, like late June to late July, is just astronomically pricey. Earlier you can book, the better. But if you're going in shoulder season, usually there's a sweet spot. I think it's about 8 weeks is when it gets really affordable for shoulder season. But as early as possible usually, because the way an airfare goes is as the most restrictive, most affordable seats sell, the fares go up. So economy is divided into like 10 sections, and as those most affordable ones sell, it goes up and up. So the earlier you can book for any destination that you're going to, the better.
Yeah.
Basically, there's more availability. Yeah.
The bird gets the worm, so to speak, hey?
Yeah, and then you get all the best picks of accommodation and all sorts of things. So yeah, especially for Euro summer, because things are just, I've never seen it like it is. Like, it's insanely busy. So
Yes.
demand
Yes.
is high.
Absolutely. I think
yeah, demand is high as well for premium cabins. So business and first are selling, and premium economy, of course, as well, selling more than they ever did pre-COVID, because people have more money to spend from those COVID years, and they're like, why not go all out? So yeah, definitely premium cabins is a very big area of demand. So if you're wanting premium cabins, book as early as possible.
Yeah, that is definitely me and my partner.
Make sure you select your seats, because
we have,
where you sit in business makes a big difference.
Oh, okay, all right. Let's expand on that, please.
Oh, sure. So I've flown it a few times. It's amazing. We got some good perks here and there, which is nice. There's a few seats in business that I don't like. Well, I mean, I'd take it over economy, but you know, but I think if you're paying that much money, you need a seat that is amazing. I love tucked in window seats. So a lot of planes are like how do I explain this? There's like one seat here, one seat here, one seat here, one seat here, and like say this is the window. So the ones that are tucked into the window, you're not going to get bumped when people walk past you, because you almost have like this little channel into your seat.
Yes.
So whereas if you're on an aisle in those ones where it's like that, you're going to get
like
bumped
zigzaggy,
every time.
Essentially.
Yeah, you're going to get bumped every time someone walks past. So I don't like those ones on the aisle. And also avoid being near toilets and galley, because the galley, it's usually at the back of the business class, and plates rattling all the time. Yeah.
Decreases the experience. Yes. Very
Exactly.
valuable information. I love that we've had this conversation.
Yes.
Let me go and check my seat allocation.
Do it. Yes. Tucked in. Oh, then again, are you in the couple seats? A couple seats are nice.
Well, I think so. I think at the configuration is one seat, two seats, one seat, and we've got the two seat part of it. So, but I'm
that's good.
Yes, I'm traditionally a window person, and when he was like, "Oh, let's do the couple seat," I'm like, "I don't want to," and I was like, "All right, okay, I know, I can see where you're coming from," so I'm like, "Fine."
I'm a window as well. I know the feeling. I like to look out and see what's underneath me, and
exactly. It's I love looking out the window and just being like, "Where am I going to, and what do I get to experience?" And that curiosity that you mentioned before of going like, I love, because I'm such a planner before the holiday, but once I'm actually on the plane, like, I don't want to research, I don't want to know, I just want to actually be immersed and allow myself to be present in the moment and be surprised. Because I remember when we were in Egypt, we went somewhere, I can't remember where it was, and I was like, oh, is that in Egypt? Like, I didn't realize that was here, or that we were able to have that experience. I think it was when we went to Hurghada, actually, because it's such a beautiful, like, beachy, like, city. And I was like, in my head, Egypt was just like pretty much the pyramids and deserts, and to then go to Hurghada, which was incredible. Like, the water is the bluest of blues, like, just amazing. You need to Google it right now if you're listening to this and in front of a computer or have your phone nearby, but it's beautiful. And I was just like, wow, like, I didn't even think that this was an option or a possibility when I was in Egypt. So just, and if I had Googled that prior and had my expectations set of we're doing desert and then we're doing this beautiful beach thing and then we're going to the city of Alexandria, like, and had that expectation set, I'd be like, oh, okay, well, this is what I expected, tick, like,
Yeah.
and created a bit of a forced expectation on the trip. But because I go into actual trips of going, I know roughly where I'm going, but I don't know the detail, and I don't want to know the detail because I want to actually experience the surprise and the flow of it in the moment. For me, that is just, yeah, how I love to travel.
Exactly. I'm actually going on a trip on Friday with my
Where
mum.
to? Oh,
We're going to the Maldives in India.
I
So
love that.
so excited. So yeah,
Mm,
the second part of the India part is a tour that we're
mm.
doing, and I'm a bit the same. I haven't really. Someone asked me the other day, "Where are you going?" And I was like, "One moment, please." Like, I actually have to check
It's
because
totally me.
normally I think as well, because I'm planning other people's trips so often, when it gets to my own, it maybe gets a bit neglected because I've been, I'm frantically planning everyone else's. I put mine on the back burner, and then the week off. So this week maybe I'll do a bit of research. But I'm on a tour. I'm embracing that, and we have like a local concierge guiding us around type thing. And I'm like, you know what? I just want to be surprised. I want
Yeah.
to, yeah, let them show me what what I need to see and what I want to
Yeah.
see. Yeah, let's learn it from them rather than a guidebook. So,
Yes. Oh,
yeah,
100%. Yeah. And I think
yeah,
that is a perfect summary of how we started this conversation, like learn from living as opposed to a guidebook. Like you learnt
yeah,
life through living and I learnt life through a book. And
yeah,
it's like, there's such a difference in the two, but there's a beauty in both of them. And like we get to experience both, and neither is right or wrong, better or worse. It's just different. And like that's what makes the world go around. And
yeah.
if everyone was the same, it'd be a boring bloody world.
Oh, exactly. I think that's the motto of our conversation. Yeah,
Mm,
everybody's different. Everyone has something to teach someone
yeah,
else. And yeah,
exactly.
it's interesting how everyone's raised with different ideas about travel. And yeah,
Yeah,
it's nice that we can all provide a different angle and show something different, which is
yeah,
nice. So
yeah,
yeah, I'm all about, yeah, living in the now these days rather than planning for the future. I always used to say, one day I'll do this, one day I'll do that. But now I'm like, today's the day. Like, let's get it done.
yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Exactly. Today's as good a
Yeah.
day as any to
Exactly.
start the
Yeah.
business, to stop the business, to like ask for a pay rise, to, quit my job, to go searching for a new
Yes.
job, like whatever that looks like for you. It's like, why not today actually? And if you don't take action today, it's like, well, why have I said no to that? Is what I'm think that I want actually what I want? Or am I just trying to keep up to the Joneses next door? Like,
Yeah.
what is the actual intentionality and the reason behind this goal that I'm chasing, or this thing that I think that I want in my world? Is it actually mine or is it someone else's?
Yeah, exactly. Do what makes
Mm,
you happy and
yeah,
live your you.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I've loved this chat for many
Me
reasons.
too. Me too. It's been lovely
Mm.
chatting.
What
Yeah.
to close out this episode, what I would love to you to answer is, out of all the places that you have traveled in the world,
Oh.
what is your favorite?
Oh, I knew that was coming.
Yeah. I was like,
I
do I go worst? Do I go favorite? Oh.
I think that there's a few places that have really resonated with me. Like,
Yeah.
everyone I tell is, I say Turkey and Cambodia for very
Okay.
different reasons. Turkey, amazing scenery, amazing coastline, so many incredible destinations to see. Like Cappadocia in Turkey is just, it blows your mind that they created this land of caves, basically. We did the hot air balloon in the morning there, and it was magical.
Divine.
Yeah, I cried a bit. It was something that I'd wanted to do forever, and it's so rare when those balloons can get off the ground. It doesn't happen very often. And yet we had one day to make it work. We got off the ground, and I bawled my eyes out.
Yeah.
So Turkey is very special. And again, back when I visited, it was very affordable. The people had been through so much, and I went fresh after a run of a few terrorism sort of events.
Mhm.
And so they were just so grateful to have a foreigner to show around their place, their country. And so Turkey was very special for me, and Cambodia, again, for pretty similar reasons. The people have so little, yet they're prepared to offer you so much. Very affordable destination, beautiful scenery, places you wouldn't think of being in Cambodia. Like there's an island off the south coast of Cambodia called Koh Rong, and it's insane. It's like what you think paradise to be. Like there's the front beach is full of little backpacker bars and bungalows and people playing volleyball on the beach and that type of thing, and $2 mango cocktails as well. And then
Yum.
yeah, exactly. And then on the other side, there's 7 kilometers of white sand that no one has ever walked on. It
Wow.
squeaks, like it's so fresh, it squeaks.
Wow.
And the water is like that crystal clear blue. It's just paradise, absolute
Mhm.
paradise. And yet people don't think of that when they think of Cambodia.
Yeah.
And yeah, such recent history, like basically a whole generation of their country was wiped out. And we had a guide showing us around Angkor Wat temples, and he was telling us, oh yeah, I lost my aunt, my uncle, and my cousin. And he was just rattling off everyone that he had lost in that time. And yet he was so lovely, so genuine, so caring. He wanted to tell us about what had happened to his family, because the more people know about what happened, the more it will never happen again.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just such an interesting place, amazing food, amazing culture, and just the most generous people in the world. Like we had we went out for a day on a tuk-tuk in Phnom Penh to go and see like the killing fields and the war museums and things. Such an interesting thing to learn about. And at the end of the day, like we had negotiated with him a price at the start. It was something crazy. It was like $25 for the day.
Wow.
And we tipped him $5, and he was basically on his hands and knees. Like he looked like he was about to cry, because we found out later that's pretty much his earnings for the month sorted.
Wow.
Like
$5 or the $30.
or the $30, yeah.
Wow.
Like it just baffles me that like
Yeah.
people live on so little there, and like the center of Siem Reap is lit up like an absolute Christmas tree. Like there is Pub Street there, which is like a street full of little bars and nightclubs and things, and brightly lit lights everywhere. Like the whole city is sparkly lights everywhere. You go a kilometer or so out of town and no one has power.
Wow.
And it just sits with you, and you go, like, they have so little and yet they're prepared to offer you so much. So Cambodia really, really sat with me. There are a lot of countries that are like beautiful scenery and sights and amazing coastlines and things. I've definitely seen so many amazing places in my time, but it's places like that that are my favorites because of those things. So
Yeah,
it's been a big
absolutely.
experience.
I don't know about anyone else listening right now, but I'm like, I'm gonna Google immediately Cambodia and say to my partner when he gets home, have you thought about going to Cambodia anytime this year or next year? Because that sounds incredible. Like
Yeah.
for many different reasons, the relaxation on the beach, and that just sounds beautiful. And then also
Yeah.
the contrast of
Yeah.
like appreciation of, here is one experience of like, let's give the tourists or like show people like how proud we are of where we live, and then a kilometer later just being like, we don't have much, like, but this is, we're able to survive off this. And we're getting a little bit into it. I swear I'll end this soon, but that's why I love travel, is because it gives you that appreciation of going, that $30 that you gave to this man, like it brought him to pretty much tears, because
Yeah.
it meant so much to him. But for you to gift him an extra $5, you're like, oh, it's just $5. But to him, like
Yeah.
it just made his day, if not his week, to go, wow, like look at what I've just received. So yeah, just it boggles my mind to just give me a bit of appreciation, not a bit, a freaking lot of appreciation to go, we have so much in Australia, and are we actually being grateful for everything that we have, as opposed to just assuming and going, oh, of course, like it's $5. I don't care. That's a coffee. Like it means nothing to me, but like it can mean so much to someone else.
Yeah.
And,
Definitely. And I think
yeah.
I was probably in Cambodia. I'm thinking back. I think I was about 18 maybe, and
Mm,
I'm nearly 30. So that was 12 years ago that I did that trip. And
yeah.
yet I still remember all of that like it was yesterday, because
Mm,
it really, stuck with me. And yeah, it was a really great trip. So
Yeah.
yeah, destinations like that I really enjoy. I like to get out of my comfort zone. Like that whole, you got to get uncomfortable to get comfortable. And I remember before that trip, all I had heard about Cambodia was like landmines and war and all sorts of things. And then to get there and yeah, experience that was just, and places like Korong, it's like, this is in the same country as where all of that happened. And like, there's so much to see and explore here and so many interesting people to get to know. So yeah, it's a very
And
special destination.
it's very similar, I think, to Egypt as well. Because before, we spoke about this when we were there, before we went, it was like, don't go there, you're a female, like it's going to be very
Travel
unsafe.
warnings.
Yeah, exactly. And when we were there, the nicest people, I felt incredibly safe. Like by the end of the trip, I was walking around the streets by myself, and I
Yeah.
would not have said that in a million years prior to that trip. But it's just like you actually need to move past those fears and actually go and experience it for yourself. And it's more times than not, it's a very different reality when you're actually in the situation than taking on board someone else's opinion or someone's word who's stuck in fear.
Yeah, exactly. I think the
Mm.
places we're scared of are the most rewarding.
Yeah,
Like the
absolutely.
countries I've been scared of before going there have been the most rewarding for me. And I think to the locals there, it means so much more tourism and people coming in to learning about their country
Yeah.
than anywhere else because they're just so grateful that you're there to learn about their history and their experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was saying, the Balkan countries were another one that was really moving for me because, you know, all of the history there has been during our lifetime. Like people, there was a major genocide there during our lifetime. Learning about that and learning about the people that went through it is just so interesting. So I love a whole range of countries, but it sounds like I just love the really war-torn one. So I didn't mean it to sound like that. But I do also love to travel for, you know, enjoyable, relaxing, lovely holidays.
Thank you, Queen, for saying yes to your yes in listening to this episode and being a part of raising the feminine collective one conversation at a time. Remember to share this episode with your business besties and join me in breaking the tabooness around having money conversations. As always, if you have enjoyed this episode, please rate, subscribe, and share this on your social media, remembering to tag me in it to help this conversation go further, which creates a bigger ripple effect.